So hello everyone, usually I make videos that more so talk about stuff that you should know as a free-to-play player or someone who doesn't spend a lot, someone who's more casual. But you know what, today let's talk about what the whales are doing and why Kuro is actually now a really important character for some whales. So there has been usually the kind of strat that you see on most Magia-centered Kimochi, or just any Kimochi that isn't specifically Charge Blast focused, where there is a sort of main strategy that people use, and it's something that I quickly touched upon in my other video, where you have teams that look somewhat similar to this. So if we go through the team, we see here we have a Mikage, we have a Mayu, a Madoka, and we have two forest units. And usually the way teams like this go is you have one or two mana batteries, or MP batteries. In this case, it's Mayu and Madoka. They're both just there to keep pumping their Magia and Doppel, to keep throwing out more MP for the entire team to use. Then you also have Mikage, who's there to just buff everyone, who is later then substituted with a Tsubaki, who is also just there to buff everyone. And then you have two people who just deal a lot of damage with their Doppels, because it's attribute strength and Doppel, which in this case is Swimsuit Mami and Konohazuki. Now, I talked in my other video about this, but in case you have not seen that one, ailments are not part of the equation, because ailments are terrible against multi-tile bosses, and you should not use ailments against this Kimochi. It's terrible, does nothing, don't use ailments. So the reason they're using Konoha and Hazuki is because they have attribute strength and doubled with a lot of Magia damage. That's basically the only reason they're using her, and the only reason why they're using Swimsuit Mami as well. So there is one question though that we can kind of see specifically for this Kimochi. Now that we've talked about the main strategy, let's go about this Kimochi in specifically, is why do we have Mikage first and then Tsubaki later? Now I know that some other people might play this differently. Some people have Mikage also in round 2. Other people might have Tsubaki in round 1 already. So there are some differences between what people are doing. But the main idea behind switching between those two is that when you start out on round 1, you have no MP, right? You start out with everyone on 0 MP, so what you need to do is you need to use Excel discs to give everyone MP. So here comes Mikage, who has Excel Draw, who can draw Excel discs with a snap, and everyone immediately gets a whole bunch of MP, and then later on she can buff as well, so that makes Mikage really powerful, the fact that she can kickstart everyone with Excel discs. But the reason why then later on you switch to Tsubaki is once everyone does have MP, Mikage doesn't really need to Excel Draw that often anymore, but you would still like to have those buffs, right? So in comes Tsubaki, who is going to be played here against the Water Kimochi. Why? Because against Water Kimochi you can use Memoria that give you weak MP. And specifically, I mean this Memoria right here, also known as Kazumi T, which is a Memoria that is played by most whales in the game, even though it was a free event memo, because it has MP gain up on it, and it has MP up when attacked by weak element. And you might be thinking to yourself, wait a second, MP up when attacked by weak element? That sounds like Mummy T, like thick T. Does that mean that Mummy's 4-star memo that everyone clowns on for being so terrible is actually useful? Not that much, mostly because this one is just better. This one is just better, even though it's a 3-star Memoria. So everyone is using this Memoria, every whale, on Tsubaki. So Tsubaki can get this bonus right here, together with the MP gain up bonus. And together with those two bonuses, you probably also play some Provoke. Maybe you play something like this right here on Tsubaki, so she can keep getting hit and she can keep generating MP just by existing on the field, meaning that she gets to Doppel without even needing to draw a single disc. And that makes her rather powerful. And that is why people later on switch to Tsubaki. Once everyone has MP, you can sort of have this longer, like, you can have this effect over longer turns to get to Doppel without drawing discs, and that's what makes it really powerful. And that's why that switch happens. That's basically the only reason why. Later on, if there's like a light type Kimochi, you will see Mikage on every single battle. And like I said, for the other characters in there, you just have characters that have attribute strength doubled. If you don't have these two characters, some people might use Kaide instead. She's also a really good choice. And like I said, some people might switch around the mana batteries. Maybe some people throw out Mayu on an earlier turn or whatever, on earlier round, because she doesn't already have the capability of immediately throwing out Magias when everyone starts at 0 MP. So there's still some stuff you can change around, but like I said, this is sort of the main idea behind the strategy. However, change happened. There is something that happened that changed everything. First off though, I need to introduce another person into this video. His name is Rige, also known as Tarokoro, and he's also someone who, on the first day, played a very similar strat. Like I said, he changed some stuff around, as people do. He, for example, had Mikage as well on the second round, but threw her out on the third round. He doesn't have Mayu, so instead he used Sasha for defense, like forest defense down. He used Kaide as well as another damage dealer. So yeah, like I said, you can change some stuff around. But overall, we can see this strategy doing somewhere between 260 to 270 million across all 3 battles. And what people wanted to do is hit that 300 million barrier. And hitting around 300 million a day is basically like the point at which you can secure a rank 1 in your division and feel really good about yourself. And this is something that like only super whales can do when you have all the correct characters, you have all the correct memoria and the strategies and everything to really push those numbers. But now, this person has found something that was theorized by the hero of this story, the hero being 4410. And 4410 has done some theory crafting about a strategy, a potential strategy. So of course, Kami-senpai, Madoka-senpai, Ultimate Madoka Senpai, that's her name. She came out recently, and I made a video about her and said she's the most broken unit in the game currently for like just general content. Like if you don't have specific characters, you just have Kami Senpai, she's gonna be able to bring like 90% of performance to anything with no restrictions, basically, because she's that good. And there has been some theory crafting how to make her work specifically for this Kimochi, but people weren't quite able to figure out how to exactly make her work. But here comes 4410, and he has some great ideas. So when you play this strategy with Kami-senpai, here's what you need to do first. First, you need to have a round 1 that you mostly just throw. You just do basically no damage on round 1, because what you're doing is you're just taking characters with you that can build MP on everyone, as well as at the same time build charges. You want to end the battle with as much MP as possible and with as many charges as possible, mostly 20 charges, and you want to have like at least 700 MP. You can, if you can like someone, there's like this INE button that you use sometimes. This gives you 50 MP. So if you get someone around 700, you can like someone, you get 750 MP for the next battle. And then on round 2 and round 3, you slot in, if you don't already have her in, Madoka-senpai, Marukami-senpai, and you just use her Magia every 2 turns to keep up the charges, and then you have everyone just throwing out their Magias for, or doppels rather, and whenever someone uses a doppel, let's say for example Swimsuit Mama uses a doppel, she can just use a single Excel disc and bam, she's back up at 150. Because you're at 20 charges and you're not using up the charges because of charge conservation from Madoka-senpai. And so you're always at 20 charges, you're always going to use just 1 disc, bam, back up to doppel and doppling again. And that's basically the main idea behind this. However, there were 2 problems that people figured out why this strategy wouldn't quite work. The first problem was on the first round. Throwing the first round and doing basically no damage is kind of terrible. So people need to figure out certain combinations of characters, of memoria, how to do damage on the first round to still keep up with really high DPS. And people were able to figure that out, right? People were able to figure that out. I don't know if I have it right here, but you can see that this other character, Rige, he has done some theory crafting, and he tried to figure out how to do a little bit more damage on round 1, and he and with every passing day was able to do a little bit better. That's the same day, a little bit better, and you can see later on, okay, he did like 36-37 million on first round. That's quite alright. That's a lot more than nothing. So yeah, he was able to at least do some damage on round 1 already, while still ending with 20 charges and still a decent amount of MP. So yeah, we've sort of solved that idea how to do a good round 1 rather. But the question then becomes, how do we do so much damage on round 2 and round 3 to keep up with the DPS that everyone else is doing? And with these strategies that people thought about, which is a similar strategy that I thought about, because it's the one that's just obvious, I guess. And I'm going to show you what I actually did. So here's my account, and what I did is, once again, I threw round 1 because I just don't, and I don't even have better charge characters than this. I literally don't have good charge characters. This Momoko is 1 slot and she dies in this battle. I have a 1 slot Hagumu, That's about it. That's like all the good charge characters that I have. I can't just take charge characters that are like low rarity, because those don't have good charge counter plus bonuses. But yeah, so I also don't have good MP builders outside of Mikage, so fuck. But yeah, so you throw round 1, and then what you do in round 2 and round 3 is you just use those charges, use that MP to keep throwing out Magias. So what I did right here is every 2 turns, I use a Madoka Senpai doppel. I also make sure that every 2 turns I need at least 1 Exaltis for Madoka Senpai. I use some disc redraw memoria to get there. I also make sure that rather early as possible, I use 2 Mikage doppels. 1 Mikage doppel with their buff lasts for like 5 turns. So if I just use 2, then most of those turns in the battle, I will have both buff actives. Sometimes I even get a 3rd buff out. And then I just try to make sure that for at least 4 turns in a row, or not in a row, but just in general, for at least 4 turns, I can get a Kaide doppel with 1 more Exaltis, so I can do Kaide doppel plus Exaltis, so she's back up by doppel, so the next turn you can already do once again doppel plus Exaltis, and then doppel plus Exaltis 1 turn after another. I don't even know if I can look at the specific locks for this. I don't think I can. But yeah, the specific locks for this is you can kind of see that. I don't have them right now, but I basically used like 4 turns in a row, only Kaide doppels, and then sometimes slotted in Akami Senpai doppel, just to make sure that I actually got that in there. These are the other few days that I had. And you can kind of see the damage that I'm doing with this. Like I said, I don't have the correct memoria. I don't have a good damage dealer. My Kami Senpai is 2 slot, so I'm missing a lot of stuff that will make this really good. And this is what a lot of other people that tried a similar strat to this found out, is that this just, even if you have the best memoria and the best characters that would fit with this strategy on round 2 and round 3, you just don't get enough damage to keep up after having a round 1 that does so much less damage. Like, you don't catch up with the damage anymore after your round 1 is so terrible. But here's where 4410 comes in, our hero of the story, because what he's figured out is the important missing piece of the puzzle. You have a Sakuya and an Aimi here. Now, why Sakuya and Aimi? Why these two? And you might be wondering yourself, wow, these 2 characters, they must have some really specific things about them. Let me look up on the wiki what these 2 characters do and why specifically these 2 characters are in here. But guess what? It doesn't fucking matter. These 2 characters are only here to die. These 2 characters are here to have a glorious and brutal death as soon as possible. And here's the magic that comes into this strategy, and why this strategy works so well. So after you've built so much MP on round 1, you go with that MP into round 2. Now that MP gets spread across all characters, and then once again at the end of round 2, that MP then gets spread across all characters at the beginning of round 3. But there's also something you need to know, that if a character dies, the MP that character has still gets saved. Like, for example, if you have, like in my example, the Momoko that I have sometimes dies, but she dies with 150 MP. And the other 2 characters, they also end on 150 MP. So at the end of the battle, even though Momoko died, I still have 450 MP. The MP still counts, even if that character is dead. Now here's the 3rd piece of the puzzle on why this is important. If you know that you have to go into round 3 after round 2, then of course at the end of round 2, you need to have a certain amount of MP. Because you want to start round 3 with bursting immediately. You want to have Magias as soon as round 3 starts. Like turn 1 on round 3, you immediately want to throw out Magias, you immediately want to throw out doubles, you immediately want to burst as hard as you can. You don't want to just have to build up MP again. And also, if you don't start round 3 with at least 100 MP on Madoka Senpai, guess what? You can't keep up charge conservation and lose your charges. That would be terrible. So round 2 gets hamstrung by having to end on high MP. And because you have to end on high MP on all the characters at the end of round 2, that severely hinders your ability to do damage in round 2. As you can see right here, in round 2, you do a lot less damage than in round 3, but here's where the magic comes in. You can just have 2 characters that die with all of the MP that they have. Let's say these 2 characters have like 150 or 100 MP both. Let's say 100 MP both, and they both die then you still have 3 characters. With 3 characters, it's more consistent on which discs you draw, and with a lot more consistent disc draw, you are able to just generally do more DPS. But the important part is, you can just keep bursting, and you can exhaust all of their MP. You can just throw out all of their MP, keep bursting really hard, and then when the battle ends, the game will tell you, oh, these 2 characters that died, they all had MP, and that MP is part of your pool. So in this example, actually, if we look at the actual example, let's say he's at 750 at the end of this with the, if he does a like, I mean, this was day 1, but let's say he did a like, so he got 750 MP, which I think is the most you can have, which is every single character on 150 MP. That would mean that both of these characters are on the left here, Sakuya and Aimi, they both start on 150 MP, they both die, and at the end of the battle, they will contribute a grand total of 300 MP to the total. And you can see his total is 562. So 300 of that came from these 2 dead characters. And the other 3 characters, they could just burst really hard, and then maybe one of these characters had like an Excel disc at the end, and some of the other characters got attacked, like Tsubaki probably got attacked at the end and generated some MP on the final turn. And then what you do is you throw these 2 characters out of the team, and you start the last battle with only 3 characters. Because then what happens is this pool of MP that you've gotten from these dead characters then gets spread again on only 3 people. Only 3 people are being spread this MP off. So in this example, 300 MP came from these 2 dead characters. Even if everyone else ended on 0 MP, you would still have 300 MP that would get spread across 3 characters, meaning they at least all have 100 MP and can Magia immediately. So this is the genius of 4410 that brought to this table, of having 2 characters that just have a bunch of MP, die, everyone else just keeps bursting, and then in the final battle you downsize from 5 to 3 and use the MP of the dead characters to kickstart those 3 people. And that is how the strategy worked, and how this strategy is able to do so much damage, because you can burst not only on turn 3, on round 3, but on round 2 already. You can burst on both of those rounds. And with the ability to burst on both of those rounds, you can actually keep up with the damage of the Magia strategy. So if we now go back to Rige, we can see the following. So I've scrolled down to his most recent day, and he has incorporated this strategy. As sacrifices, he has an Ui and a Chisato. It doesn't really matter which character you sacrifice, unless it does. But he sacrificed these 2 characters, and you can see, oh my god, this is damage. Look at that, look at those numbers. Like, yeah, turn 1 he was able to do a lot more damage because he just has better stuff for turn 1 while still ending a lot of MP. This MP, he also got a like on this because it's day 3, so he was able to like someone else to get 50 bonus MP. So he ended probably on like 612 MP before going into this battle. So everyone can at least do a Magia. So then he had Ui and Chisato both die. They're both probably like level 1. Or like really low level, and they both just die immediately. And then he was able to burst really hard, and then on round 3 he was able to burst really hard as well. The reason why round 2 still is a little bit less damage is because you start the battle with 2 characters that need to die, and that can mean that maybe they draw a disc you don't like, or just in general they might not die immediately. Maybe you draw some more of the discs. Yeah, like some stuff can go wrong, but and also another reason why is you still need to end the battle with charge conservation. Like, you still want to have 20 charges at the end of the battle to go into the next battle, something you don't need to worry about on the final battle. So in the round 2, you need to use at least 3 Madookami Senpai Magias or doppels to keep up your charges, while in the final battle, you can actually go by with using her doppel only twice, and then just letting her charge conservation run out, because at the very end of the battle, it doesn't matter anymore if you end with 20 charges or not. So yeah, that also contributes to being able to do more damage on round 3. But overall, you can see, oh, this strategy is really great. And this strategy does overall a lot more damage than the other strategy. This strategy is able to, everyone that is able to use this strategy is basically guaranteed rank 1 over characters, over people that use the Magia strategy. Really good. And here's someone else who used this strategy as well, and they used Kuro. And Kuro, that's the good part of Kuro, because I said earlier, like maybe it actually doesn't matter who you sacrifice. By the way, they're sacrificing Kuro and Ranka. And also, by the way, if you're wondering why some of these people look like they're 4-star, if you select the 4-star card art for them, then in the battle log, they just appear with this 4-star card art. The card art you see right here is just the card art this person selected for to like show up as their disc, for example. So yeah, so it doesn't actually matter who you sacrifice unless you sacrifice Kuro. And this is the amazing part, because Kuro's personal is this: attack up upon death, about 6% for all allies for 2 turns. Now 6% for 2 turns is not a whole lot, it's basically nothing. But it's still a little bit more than nothing, right? It's still a little bit more than nothing to get 6% attack up for 2 turns on all allies. So if you're gonna have to sacrifice people as part of the strategy, you might as well sacrifice someone who actually buffs everyone. So you take a Kuro. Isn't that amazing? Now let's say, for example, you accidentally already leveled Kuro to her maximum level. I mean, even at 1 star, you can still reach it like level 40 or whatever. And let's say she actually survives the Kimochi Magia that it uses on level on turn 1. How do you make sure Kuro dies right away? Well, you could play Kuro together with a provoke, right? You can use both her personal and a provoke. But that means you would have to need 2 slots, right? You need 2 slots if you're doing that. But how do you get 2 slots on Kuro? You use an innocent gem. And this is why it's actually so crazy that not just is Kuro really important if you want to like get the maximum amount of DPS possible for hyper whales, but also that it's better if you have an innocent gem on her, which is the hyper whale item that costs like paid money, actual paid money, which is an item that is like in like the New Year's bags or the anniversary bags that you can use to give anyone a slot. Like for example, if you have like a 3-slot Momoko, you can use an innocent gem on Momoko and then she's 4-slot. But a lot of hyper whales that already had every single character that they wanted on 4-slot just used it on Kuro. And it's actually good that they did, because now they can play Kuro with personal and with provoke to make sure that she definitely dies on turn 1. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? And they can put her right next to Ranka so that if the Kimochi attacks Kuro with a blast attack, Ranka dies as well. So that's also really good. So overall, isn't that kind of amazing what people were able to come up with? People thought on day 1 that this was going to be the strat that is the best strat on this Kimochi, because this was also the best strat on some other Kimochi to do something similar like this. But then people were like, you know what? 4410, our big hero, figured out. Kami Senpai actually gets some cool stuff. You figure out first how to do a good turn round 1, and once you've got a good round 1 down, you do this amazing strat where you just sacrifice 2 people just as MP batteries, literally batteries that you then drain for round 3. What an amazing strat. So yeah, thank you for everyone for watching. I know this was a little bit of a different video where I just go a little bit more in depth into the strategy that people use on like higher tier stuff, I guess. And you know what the sad part about this is? That 4410, he doesn't actually have all the units and memorias necessary to make this strategy happen as well as other people are making it happen. So 4410 can't actually quite reach these numbers. So the person who invented the strategy can't actually do it. And I think that's kind of sad. But because he just doesn't have all the resources that, for example, Riga has, or that Miso Saba has. So that's kind of sad. Anyway, that's it. Hope you enjoyed this. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and I'll see you guys next time.